friends, we're back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kandron.
Hey now, it's Dehjai.
And if you've never been here before, we talk about reality shows, pop culture, real life, and the cross section of all of those things. We're back with an episode talking about Married at First Sight, but work as well. So, one of the guys this season that they matched, Steve, is currently unemployed. So, just to give you context, Steve, I don't remember what his exact career is, but I think it's something to do with tech. Anyways, I guess a year or so before he went on Married at First Sight, it seems like he probably burned out of his career at some point and was just kind of like, I'm going to take some time off. He went on a long road trip, very long road trip, kind of like roughed it, slept in his car or camped or whatever while he was on this road trip. And just kind of like felt, took a year off the grid essentially. So he's back. He has money saved. And there's been a lot of chatter about whether or not he needs to get a job, essentially. And just as a smidge more background, so one of the other people on the show is a real estate agent. So technically he's an entrepreneur. He works for himself as well. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of like, I did that too. And while I was trying to figure out what my next move was, and I had my savings, I lived off my savings. I was doing fine. I was living fine. And right. I was living just fine. And, while I figured out my real estate career, I just lived off my savings. I took time off and I lived off my savings. And he also said that Steve's profession, whatever it is in very high demand and it's well paid. So if and when he's ready to go back, he'll be able to get a job with no problem. So with all of that in mind, how would you feel about a partner who was kind of on a break from working?
So as you were telling the story, it brought to mind someone that I follow on TikTok she works in tech and she's an engineer of some sort. Either way, she makes six figures. And she had this whole idea about how you should retire every so many years. It's very fucking interesting. So she said that, and she's in the process of this now. I can't tell you her name because I don't remember. But she said that she makes well over six figures in her field and she works at a major tech company, and that she did the math to figure out how much she needed to be off for a year. And so she came up to a number of roughly around, $55,000. So that way she can still afford all of her things and all of her luxuries, but keep it at a budget. So that's not even the full six figures that she has, right?
Yeah, because we don't really need that, to be honest.
No.
Especially if you're not going much of anywhere.
Right. And so her thing was that in this year off of like quick retirement or whatever, she would up her skill level in terms of getting some sort of education, some new certifications, whatever the case may be. And also travel the world and learn new things so that when she's ready to go back to work, she's even more of a viable candidate, like top of the tier. And so if my partner was to be doing what she is doing, like you're still able to cover all of your expenses and then some, and then you already have a plan for what the next year will look like. Cool. Like when she broke down like her thought process, I'm like, bitch, that's smart. Cause she was like, everybody, the American dream is to work until you're like 50, 60 years old. And then you're supposed to go then travel the world. Well, when you that old, who the hell wants to be flying all over the place? And
also everybody doesn't make it.
And that part, but because she is someone of that stature in terms of means, like she was like, why would I not just live life now?
Absolutely.
And I was like, damn, like this is genius. I am not mad at her. Like but the only thing is, it's like the education piece of it is, like if it's just certifications, yeah, that can take, 6 months to a year or whatever, depending on what it's less than that. But if it's more education that requires more time, a year ain't gonna be enough time for you to get your certs and still be able to just kind of enjoy life. Like I am interested, I'm going to be following her trajectory, because this is the first time that she's doing this. And she admittedly was just kind of like, you know, my mom was like a computer genius or whatever, and worked in the field, also worked in tech also. And so like the smarts come easily to me, like it's not easy. But she was just like, you know, this is my plan. This may not be the plan for everybody, but like it's just something to consider. And I was just like, yo, this shit is genius. I'm not mad at this.
And like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought about doing that before the pandemic. I was actually pretty bent on it. I was like, I'm gonna move to a cheaper city, or either that or move back home for a few months, like 6 months, catch my breath, live off my savings, and
genius, like
with
deal.
Right. And with having, you know, with being a lawyer, there are jobs I can take to, you know, just keep some income coming in, or I can do, and honestly, I did contract work for a really long time, so contract work doesn't really scare me like that. And I'm honestly, I'm thinking about doing this again next year, where I'm going to quit my full-time job and, you know, just do contract work. But I was surprised by the number of people who were like, you know, he just needs to go get a job. Because also, like,
no, that's people that have never had that means. I think, sorry to cut you off, but like,
no,
I think a lot of that judgment comes from people who are like working class. And that's not to say that I am not working class, because I think to a degree I might be. But I also, I like, okay, my barometer is in terms of like my parents. My parents are definitely working class. The generations before us are definitely working class, but I make more than they did and ever have. Like my mom had to go out of the country to make the amount of money I make now.
Yeah. I guess my like visceral reaction to like everybody's response to this was like, I thought y'all said y'all like work-life balance. Like, I thought y'all said that your values were that you weren't going to let a job worry you to death. Like, I thought y'all said that was your values. So, like, if he's saying that getting off the merry-go-round and taking contract jobs here or there, saving his money and living off the grid from time to time is what makes him happy, and he has the means to be able to do it.
And he probably makes like, money taking contract work from time to time, because that means you got to pay me for my time. Yes. I have to leave my leisurely life to come do this work for you.
And like, admittedly, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be super honest. While I feel like this is a sustainable life and a life that I've lived in small part and that I want to continue in larger part, seeing him at home all day was getting on my nerves. I was like, he need to go find a hobby or something so he's not in her face all day, in Noi's face all day, because I felt like that's what was annoying her more than anything, was that he was just there all day and he was sitting around while she was working. And
that's annoying.
Or he was like making her lunch or making her an omelet and she's there answering emails and he's kind of like, well, what you doing? It's like, I'm working. What you mean?
That. Cook, clean, and, you know, give me things, but have something to do, like homegirl I just talked about.
Exactly. Have some. Are you right?
Living a whole life.
I'm like, go ride a bike, go read a book, go write a book. I don't know what your other plans are, but your plans can't be sitting in the house with me all day, because that would get on my nerves. But the idea in general, I don't have a problem with it. I just was like, it seems like he's living his values to me, and I respect
why are you mad at that? But I think, not even why are you mad at that? I totally get why people are mad. They are upset because he chose to do something about his unhappiness and you didn't. And he's a reflection of that in your face.
Yeah. And also I think that in, you know, being kinder to the, you know, the people who are very critical of this, I think that getting married, like doing that by yourself is one thing, but like when you may have a spouse or your partner and they want to have children, like thinking about living that way when you have kids and stuff, like it's a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
So I think that's what
at the same token, so in that regard, that's no different than, say, for example, my alleged sibling, her husband was a military officer and she was a stay-at-home mom and wife.
Yeah.
And before they had kids, she was a stay-at-home wife. So she was doing all the things in the house and having her own little hobbies. And then they had kids. So then like that alleviated having to have childcare. because you have
Yeah,
an
or
adult at home.
people deciding, or women deciding to, or people, not just women, men do it too.
Yeah.
People deciding, like, hey, while the kids are small, I'm going to take a few years off of work so that I can support them and I can be around to run them to their whatever,
Mhm.
run them to their things. I'll
Mhm.
maybe work on the side, do a little bit of stuff here and there on the side, and then go from there. Honestly, I think that Steve is a victim of poor framing. Like, I will be completely honest, he is not doing a good job of selling this. I feel like um Mark the Shark did this is Boston, so he's Mark the Shark, but Mock the Shark, you know. So, anyways, I think he did a better job of like breaking it down on the after show with Keisha Knight Pulliam. By the way, if you're not watching the after show, you should. It's very good, and Keisha be snatching the people's edges and getting the people together. So I
She had
respect
a
it.
really good shout out and aside, but shout out to her. But she had a really good podcast back in the day. I don't know what
Oh, I didn't know
happened
that.
to it as to why she no longer does it, but it was dope because Keisha grew up in like Hollywood, Black Hollywood, and then she
Yeah,
moved to Atlanta, so she was like affiliated with like all the girls down
yeah.
in Atlanta before it became the craziness that it is today.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just think she's doing a really good job at like holding them accountable in a way that the previous host did not. So if you're not watching both, you should. But yeah, I think he's just not selling it well, but I don't have a problem in theory of what he's doing. It seems to me that he's living his values, and I respect that. And as somebody who aspires to similarly live my values in that way of like, this job is not going to wear me down to the ground,
Hello.
and that I have creative things that I would like to be doing instead, I would love to work for 1 month off to be able to kind of like regroup, and because the pace that I'm going at right now is not sustainable. Like, having a month off to finding another 3 to 6 month contract and then taking another month or two off, like, that is ideal for me.
Listen, I'm with you.
So,
100%.
anyways,
Maybe we need to connect Mock the Shock, as you call him, with Homegirl from TikTok.
yeah, well, his marriage isn't going well, so
Well,
maybe.
she's married. I'm just saying, just so he can get some guidance, because sis thought her
Oh
plan out
no,
quite
Steve.
well.
It's Steve that needs guidance. Mark the Shark's the one that sold it well. Um,
Oh.
yeah, but anyways, drop down in the comments, let me know what you think. Let us know what you think. Again, like I said, Steve is not laying out his plan. That's the problem. And so I
Mom
think
didn't have one.
he probably doesn't have one. But when you have in-demand skills, you don't need a plan.
No. So one question I have before we wrap this up
Yeah,
is he newly into this journey? Like, how long has he been in this place?
seems like he's been there for like a year and a half.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, you need a plan, buddy.
Yeah, but I think what it is he doesn't really have a plan because he has in-demand skills. So it's like, okay, when I feel like in his mind, and I've heard other people say this, stuff like this, it's like when his bank account hits a certain number, then he's like, all right, I'll just jump back in. And I'll jump back in until my bank account hits this number. And then I'll feel better. And then I'll jump back out. Like, I feel like that's his plan. And he isn't really articulating that either. But he's also not saying, he's not giving it an end date. He's not giving it anything. But I think in his mind, the end date is whatever that bank account number is, or until he can find something or happen across something through his network that makes him happy or makes him want to go back to work.
True. And tech is the wave of the future. So if you want to continue to have a sustainable living, you may as well go work in tech.
Yeah. So, anyways, let us know. Drop down in the comments, especially if you watch Married at First Sight. Let us know what you think. Even if you do not, let us know how you feel about, a partner taking an alternative career route. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.